Hello, and welcome to the Looking Place podcast, where we seek to help guide our listeners through a journey of discovering your intrinsic power. I'm T.
And I'm Mel. Welcome. Thank you
Welcome.
guys so much for being here. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. And today we have a special guest. Her name is Natalie Williams. She resides outside of Philadelphia, PA. She's married. She has two children in college, so two adult children in college. And she also is a caregiver of her mom and her brother. And Natalie is very involved in her fraternity. In fact, she's the business manager for her local Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. And Natalie has a background in pharmaceutical sales, and she also did some caregiving after her corporate job. So we just want to say welcome, Natalie. Thank you
Welcome.
for coming and sharing about this important topic about just caregiving and self-care and how to take care and navigate all of that. It is a journey. So welcome.
Yes,
Thank you
absolutely.
so much. Thank you, Melody. And so nice to meet you, Tia.
You as
Uh,
well.
I appreciate you inviting me to come today to speak about self care, which is a very important topic. Just to give you a little background in terms of my journey, as Mel shared, I was from the pharmaceutical industry, was also into contract management. That was my formal full time position. But once I left that, I started to take care of my family. And, like many other people, we were subject to the daycare situation. That was the first situation. And so that's how I ended up staying at home for a while to take care of the family. But after I left corporate, I was spent a number of years. The kids were a lot younger. And then as they got older, my parents were getting older. And so my mother developed Alzheimer's, first dementia, and then it uh,
Mm.
developed into Alzheimer's. And so for a number of years, we were working really diligently to try to get her to move in with us. And she was very resistant, as a lot of people are when they get that age. They really
Yeah.
want to keep their independence. But it became apparent to us that it was something we needed to do and we had to do it. And so, my husband and I, we talked about it and we started preparing. As it turned out, one of my brothers that lives in Philadelphia, also needed help and support. And so we ended up taking in both of them. My brother came first, and my brother, he was somewhat more self-sufficient, and so he just needed basic things like food, and we would pick up his medication and, do his laundry and things like that. But he would take care of all of his own appointments and his administrative stuff, which made it really easy. My mother, on the other hand, with Alzheimer's, she couldn't do any of that. So I had to take over her household while she was living there. I took it over. So I would say at least about 4 or 5 years before she moved in with us, I was already supporting her, so to speak. So once she moved in, then I had to take over everything. So now
Mm.
I am running my own household, paying the bills, doing everything that we do to run our households. And then I had to pick up and take care of my mother's, all of her affairs as well. So it has been quite a journey. I'm really thankful that we were able to have her come and move with us, my brother as well. We have a nice single family home, and we had rooms downstairs on our first level that we weren't using. So we converted one room that was an office into a bedroom, and then we converted our living room, which we rarely used, into another bedroom. So they stay on the first floor. So we did all of that before they moved in, to make sure that we would be able to accommodate them. But so it's been somewhat of a challenge because my children at the time were still in high school. My son was still in high school, and so he graduated. My daughter, so they're both in college now. They're both at Temple University, which is nice. That kind of makes it a little bit easier for me because they're in one place. And I know where they are. They see
Yeah,
each other during the day,
that's
and now
awesome.
their cousin, yeah, and now their cousin from Maryland has joined them. So now
Oh,
they
wow.
kind of,
Wonderful.
yeah,
That's awesome.
That is
yeah, yeah.
awesome.
So they're
Community.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
they're having fun now, running into each other on campus and
Oh,
that
I
kind of
love
thing.
that.
But yeah. So that's really great for them. And so
And
for
good
me,
job on raising two young ones and getting them both to college. That's amazing.
yeah,
Good on you. Absolutely.
woo, woo, just great for me.
Absolutely.
Trying to get
Absolutely.
them through. But so that was a blessing, really, that they
Mhm.
ended up going to the same school because if they were in two different places or they were somewhere where we had to fly, it's just a lot more logistics.
Right.
So so
Mhm.
that kind of took off the edge of them leaving home.
That's good.
Um, but with my mother, it's been nonstop since she's been here. It's been a blessing
Mhm.
to have her here. The administrative part of taking care of someone it can be very daunting. Um,
Mhm.
it's been dealing with the insurance companies, switching her insurance because she lived in another state. So when she came here, I had to switch her insurance, and then we had to get her on palliative care. So that's the aspect as
Mhm.
well is the different types of care that your loved one may need, and seeking that out and getting that on board. So it's been pretty consistent, palliative care, had her signed up for that for about 6 months. And then her insurance company changed the program and then she was no longer eligible for it. So we went for a period of, I don't know, 6 months or so where she wasn't on it. But that care provided support in a nurse being able to come in. Palliative care, you get everything. You get the nurse practitioner, the OT, the PT, you get everything, which is
Mhm.
really, really good. It's a blessing. And they come to you. So that was the other nice thing about it. And so, what we decided to do was keep my mother's doctors in place because she only really went to see them maybe once or twice a year.
Mhm.
Uh, so the nurse practitioner coming to the house was a big help. So instead of taking her to the doctor in New Jersey, the nurse practitioner would come, they would do the whole exam, and then they would send a report to the doctor. So we just did telehealth with the doctor, which was really nice.
Yeah.
That's been a big, big, big help. But we do still see her cardiologist in New Jersey. We do go there occasionally, at least about twice a year. So in the meantime, just trying to keep everything going it's a lot. It can
Yeah.
really be a lot.
Yeah. So
And
I know within the industry that we work in, Mel and I as being, physical therapists and myself, physical therapist assistant, working in the outpatient clinic setting, working in the in-home or assisted living, facility setting. Um, I've seen, firsthand just how much stress it can be on a person to become a caregiver for their loved one. I don't
Mhm.
have personal experience in it. That's not been my journey yet. Hopefully that I don't have to, but if I have to, I'm willing to absolutely step into that role. But seeing, people who have and correct me if I'm wrong, Natalie, but you did say you had some formal experience as a caregiver after your initial career. So you had a little bit of preparation through
right,
doing it professionally before you stepped into the role for caring for your mom. But
Mhm.
oftentimes people are put into these roles with zero
Mhm.
advanced training or intention even,
right.
and so you had that insight based on having done it on some professional level first, which I'm sure had to help through the
Mhm.
process. But what could you lend toward a person who never had the intention to become a caregiver, but was put into that role because they have a loved one that required that of them? Where would they need to start? And how can that journey be a little bit less stressful? I mean, I don't know that it could be negated of stress, but how's it a little less stressful?
Sure. Well, I would say to do some research first, because I remember
Mhm.
years ago, before we even got to this point, I was doing some research into the assisted living facilities. And that could have worked, but then when a patient has dementia, they need more support. So that, came off the table. But what I would share with people is to find someone that and it shouldn't be that difficult to find someone who's taking care of a loved one and just find out about their journey, find out about the programs that their loved one may be, eligible for. Just navigate, learn how to navigate through insurance. It is a lot because you're working with insurance companies, you're working with medical professionals. People are coming into your home, and then you have your own family, which they move in and out. And so, I mean, the caregivers are in and out. Your family is moving around and doing different things. And as I said, with my kids going to college, so you're navigating a lot. And
Mhm.
so, what really helped me was talking to people who were going through it or had already been through it. In fact, I had a couple of people who had to walk me through how to get my mother out of my home, because out of her home, rather, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
to get her to move in with us. And so basically, they walked me through how to go about doing it. And that's how she was able to get here.
Because
Uh,
she didn't want to come.
she didn't want to come. And, I would talk to her and she said, "Oh, let me think about it, or let me pray about it." And, she'd come back, "Oh, I'm not ready. I don't want to do it." So it was right. That was the challenge initially.
Mhm.
Um, and just, it's a challenge. Just,
Yeah.
my brother used to live with her. And then that was a big thing too, where he,
But not this brother, but another
that
brother.
lives here. Yes, I have another brother who was living with her temporarily, I guess, for the last few years. And, he needed to make a transition as well when she transitioned. And, we
So
had
many
talked about
things being affected.
had
Yeah.
talked about that years ahead, but when the time came, he still wasn't prepared. So
Mhm.
then I was managing his situation.
Mhm.
So, all in all, I had to learn how to stop sometimes, and when she did move in, I also have a caregiver that comes in to help so that I can get a breather. Uh,
Mhm.
so that is also helpful. If and I know that everyone is not able to do that, but if they're not able to do it, what I will offer people is to ask friends to help or other family members,
Yeah.
ask them to come over, ask if they can stay with them
Yeah.
for a short time.
Yeah.
Like we have been able to go on vacation. We've actually went on vacation a few times, and I set it up with the caregivers, and sometimes it's more than one to cover the time that we will be away. And so
Right.
far, it has worked.
Good.
And I've been very blessed to have, found some caregivers that were consistent and really just love my mother.
That's a
So
blessing.
that's been, yes,
Mhm.
such a blessing. But we did go through some. We went through about 4 or 5 before we got to the ones that were good, that were able to stay around. And as we had discussed earlier, um, the industry it turns over very quickly, and so
Yeah.
to really navigate how many people are you going to actually have come through your home,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because especially in my mom's situation where she has dementia or Alzheimer's, I have to be careful because then there's confusion that's added, more
Right.
confusion. So
Right.
we're
Yeah.
trying to develop consistency around the care, and
Right.
so I feel like we've gotten there,
Good.
gotten there.
Good.
But in regard to the self care, yes, I've had to learn how to sit down, and I've had to learn how to stop and just
Mhm.
rest.
Yeah.
And it's
Absolutely.
and I'm going to say, and I know other people who may be listening at some point or another will agree, you really never stop completely because you can't.
Mm.
Uh, Always one eye open, one ear open, even at
Mhm.
nighttime, because
Mhm.
my mother wanders.
Mhm.
So, in order to really get real relaxation, I usually will go away. We will
You have
go
to go away.
Right.
vacation. I have to go away. You have to.
Yeah.
A couple of
Yeah.
days just to shut down
Yeah.
completely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then
So
go ahead.
I just wanted to say this. So I got a text from a friend
Hmm.
who basically just said, I'm at wit's end because I don't know how to do this with taking care of my mom anymore. And this was just today. She said,
Hmm.
I set her up to go to some family's house for 1 or 2 weeks,
Hmm.
and she refused. And so she said, I was blindsided. She said, I just don't know what to do anymore. So this is a real problem for
Yes,
people.
it is.
Even the part that, because I don't think the patients are, well, they're not patients, they're loved ones. They
Hmm.
don't get how the kids or whomever's taking care of them will
Hmm.
get burned out.
Yeah. It's all consuming.
It
Yeah.
is. It
And
Yeah.
really.
so what advice, like for somebody like that, what advice would you even give her
Hmm.
to how to handle this, because if her mom won't go,
Mm-hmm.
but then that's going to cause her to get even more burned out, and she's going to crash because
Right.
I know that that's her history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. I would suggest, if her mother has any friends, or if they have been going to a church, to try to get some of the church members involved, to be
Hmm.
able to give her a break. If she has somebody she's kind of close to, who'd be willing to come and even stay with them for a couple of days, or just to give her so she can have a break. She's going to have to
Hmm.
pull in the family.
Yes.
There's no other way to do it. You
Yeah.
have to pull in the family. If you
Yes.
can't get the caregivers, if she can't afford the caregiver, she has to reach out, and have some people come in, because she's got to get a break. It's
Yeah.
imminent. It's
Yeah.
imminent to
It
get
really
a,
is. Yeah.
because you just can't keep giving without being refreshed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
What I'm
And so,
seeing oftentimes, just by proxy of, like I said, treating patients, and obviously if that patient has a loved one that works in the capacity of being their caregiver,
mhm,
oftentimes, and again, going back to, I don't have the personal experience directly, but working alongside these families, that's what I'm seeing, is that these caregivers get so consumed in the role of
Mhm.
caregiver, and then they actually kind of become a little bit isolated. And it depends on what their family dynamic is to begin with, but oftentimes I see them and they're trying to just go it alone. And I'll say to them oftentimes, you need to build a community of people who are willing to go on this journey with you, because you're not going to be, as much as your heart wants to be able to do this by yourself, you're not going to be able to sustain that. You do have to have the ability to pull away from it, reset, recharge. And that takes having people around you, because here's the thing about the industry of caregivers: it is
mhm,
very expensive to hire a caregiver. And then the irony of that is that caregivers are oftentimes, in my opinion, not paid adequately for the job that they're required to do. So that
Mhm.
goes to the turnover. It's difficult to keep caregivers on staff because they're oftentimes underpaid, but then hiring a caregiver company is very expensive for the family. And so it's like,
Yeah.
okay, where do we go from here? You have to
right,
build a community of people, friends, loved ones, and almost kind of, gently introduce them by way of, not, I want to go away this weekend. Can you just come into the house and do this thing that you've never done?
mm,
Introduce it to them. Have them come into the home if they're willing to. Have them come
right,
into the home periodically, just to see what it looks like and get acclimated, so that when you do need to go to that person and say, "Hey, I need 2 days just to go away and recharge. Can you come over?" They're already kind of familiar with the setup of the home and the requirement of the person. But it's just so important for them to be able to step away for just however much time that they can allow themselves, so that they can recharge, refuel, and continue to operate in that capacity without completely depleting themselves and losing themselves.
that's
Mhm.
so true. That's
Mhm.
absolutely true, and it's something that you have to work on. It doesn't happen automatically. In fact, I have set up, because, like you said, the caregivers turn over very quickly, so you don't always have that continuity of care. So what I did was, I have someone that comes from an agency once a week, and then we talked, and I also get her to come a few more days of the week outside of the agency, because they were not able to keep her working. She has had so many different clients, and lost them because people
Mhm.
have discontinued their care because they cannot afford it.
Mhm.
And so I
Wow.
said, well, look, hey, how about, I need help, so I have her come 3 days a week, and I pay her. I pay her
Mhm.
more than what she gets paid at the agency. And so I
And
think that,
probably less than what you would pay the agency.
exactly,
Cutting out the
exactly,
Mhm.
middleman, basically. Yeah.
Mhm.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Because after doing the research there into different agencies, it's very expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
very expensive. But that's what, I would suggest, that people are looking for the help, or they're trying to figure it out. You may need to do, a few different things. You may not all be under the umbrella of an agency.
Yeah, like private duty is what they call it. Mhm.
Exactly,
Private
exactly.
pay.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so fortunately, I was able to find the people from the agency. You know,
Yeah.
they get a little nervous. They were like, "Oh well," I was like, "Well, if you're working for an agency, you're contracted with them. However, but they're not able to keep you working. They're not able to supply the clients for you. Then it's incumbent upon you to be able to go out and find clients so that you can keep yourself working. And so I think I've been able to do that with a couple of people
Mhm.
from agencies. So
That's
it's worked
good.
out. It has worked out pretty good. And then,
Good.
the ones that I found that were really good, they were willing to stay because we were consistent. We were a consistent client.
Okay.
Yeah.
And giving them more hours, they're like, okay, when
Right.
do you need me extra time? So I
Right.
use them sometime on the weekend.
Okay.
And then another friend of mine who I used to go to church with, she has a full-time job, but she started caregiving on the side, as a second
Mm.
job. And so because I knew her very well, I was able to pull her in. So, on weekends or if I have some special things I have to do. So I have two people that I can work with.
Right.
That's
And
good.
and in addition to that, my daughter has stepped in and helped. In fact, the whole family really has helped at
That's
different
awesome. That's how it should be. That's
even
that's wonderful to hear.
son. In
Yeah.
fact, my son was the first one to help take care of my mom for a little bit
Oh,
um,
wow.
when we were away for a day or two. So it was good. He's
That's
20 now, but at the time he was probably 18. And so
good.
I
Yes.
said, I said, this is you giving back. I said, because when you were a baby, grandma took care of you for a little while
That's
while I was still
right.
working. I said, so now this is that you get the love back on
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
And
Ah,
yeah, so
isn't that a beautiful way to put it?
mhm,
Because
yeah,
that, if I had to create something in life, I would create, like, let's say a home. You know how people have the personal care homes where you have elderly people there, and then you can have families, let's say single parents or a homeless mom or with her kids or somebody like, and they could be in the same home together. So the elderly's love would be met from kids because they love the kids, and then the kids can have a grandparent, surrogate grandparent that
right.
they could look up to. So it's so great that you're teaching your
Yeah,
kids. It's like you giving back because they took care of you,
right. Exactly.
and that's an acknowledgement. And that's really good. I
Yeah.
I think that that's super.
And I
I
think
do want to say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, you finish. Go ahead.
I do want to say, and I had a patient once, and her husband was taking care of her. And he promised her he would never put her in a nursing home. She had MS and she was completely bedridden, dependent, is what we call it. And they had a daughter, and she worked full time, so she couldn't really help out a lot. Well, I talked to him that very visit. I said, you need to get some help because I could tell you're worn out. And if you don't get any help, it's going to impact you. And I said, so you've got to get some help or think of something else. He said, well, I promised her I would never put her in a nursing home. That was that Friday. So when I called to make an appointment for that Monday with her, the daughter told me that he passed away over the weekend,
Wow.
just like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I could tell that he was worn out.
Mm-hmm.
But because of this promise he made his wife,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know that they could have afforded somebody to come out and help. I didn't know their financial situation. But yeah, he died
Yeah.
because it was a lot.
It's
Because
too much.
you gotta take care of yourself when
Mm-hmm.
you're a caregiver.
Yeah.
Really do.
And it doesn't happen a lot. People are burned out.
I have a similar story. A friend of mine I went to school with, high school and college, her aunt also had Alzheimer's. And I think it was a cousin. I think it was a cousin that would come to the house every day. In fact, her husband also was developing Alzheimer's at the same time. She actually walked away from them once when they were out at the zoo and was missing for a couple of days.
Wow.
But
Mm.
the cousin, oh, this is what happened. Because the cousin that used to take care of them passed away, just
Ah,
like you're saying, Melody.
Okay.
I think she had a heart attack, but she was the one that used to go to the house and check on them, make sure they had food and everything they needed. She passed away, heart
Mm.
attack, and died. And then after that, that situation happened where she was with them and walked away, walked off, and was missing. They did find her, thank goodness. But yeah, that
Yeah.
happens, and she
Yeah.
was, probably my age, in her
Yeah.
50s. But and it because it is stressful. It is
Yeah.
stressful, and I
Yeah.
noticed
yeah.
that for my own health and well-being, because over the past couple of years I've noticed some changes in my health, and where I had to give myself more attention, working out, and just having more time for myself, and and making sure that the family understands, okay, I need to slow down a little bit. So
Hmm.
everybody else, when you're home, you need to help out. So I'm not the one that's doing everything,
Right.
because you can get overwhelmed with the details of everything,
Yeah.
trying to make sure, you're trying to keep all the plates spinning, and sometimes you just get
Hmm.
tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going into the getting overwhelmed with the details, that kind of leads me to a question. Do you, because this is your life and your experience, do you schedule time, so to speak, for self-care? Is it something that you're kind of doing when you just, feel that sense of overwhelm, like, okay, I'm feeling tired of be done, let me do a, let me go away, or is it something that is built into the structure of your life and your role as a caregiver? I'm going to build in time to be the caregiver, but I'm also going to structure and build in time to take care of myself. Do you find that to be your approach?
It should be built in, but it's not always built in, and I have
Okay.
to remember I need to go and do something. Maybe I just need to go out for the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
But I do have, as Melody shared in the beginning, that I'm in a sorority, and so we do have activities. But that is centered around work sometimes, because we're
Okay.
always doing things for the community. So we're doing community projects.
That could
Yeah.
be more self-care. I mean, more taking care of some.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and as you stated, I'm the business manager for my chapter, so I'm really busy, finding location, doing what I need to do for them, and so sometimes that gets busy on top of what I have. It's like, okay, I have about 4 months left in this position, then I'll get a chance to relax. But it's not always built in. But then, I do have friends where we'll call each other and say, hey, let's go out. So I've been able to go out and do some of the fellowship things with the sorority and people, or just friends, and so in that way, I've done that more than I have in the past. So
Oh,
I'm getting, I'm
good,
getting,
good, good,
That's
good.
good.
Yeah,
That
getting.
is
because
very good.
I find myself, like I said, having these conversations with people who are in the role of caregiver, more specifically the ones who didn't have the intention to do so. It was what God, put before them to take care of their loved one. But, oftentimes if I have conversations with them about just making sure you take care of yourself, kind of the overall response is, I don't have the time. I don't have the time. I don't have the help. I don't have the time. And sometimes, and again, this is just from my outside perspective and observation, it comes to me, okay, well, you're scheduling the time, you have a day scheduled for the person that you're caring for, meds at this time or this appointment at this time or whatever the case may be. You have the capacity to build a schedule because now it's required of you to take care of this loved one. Block out 1 hour for yourself, just one. The care of that person, I don't feel would be necessarily sacrificed if you just took 1 hour out of that daily schedule and dedicated it only to yourself, whatever that looks like. Easy for me to say because, again, I'm not in the role, but if you're
Mhm.
feeling like you don't have the option or the opportunity because you don't have the help, sometimes I feel like we just don't allow ourselves the liberty to even consider taking care of ourselves. It might feel selfish, or it might feel like that other person's care, quality of care might be sacrificed in some way. And it's like, no, it'll help actually to keep you strong enough to be in this role. What
Right.
what would you have to say toward that?
Yeah. I mean, it's just something they have to do. You have to make the time. Take the, like you said, if it's an hour, if you're able to get somebody to come in. There is also respite care, which I haven't utilized that yet, but I've heard about it. Have
What is that? I've never heard of that actually.
respite care is when someone from an agency will come and allow you to have a few hours to go
Oh,
out to
okay.
do.
Mhm.
So that is available. People have to seek that out.
Okay.
Uh, I haven't actually used that yet because I have the caregivers, but yeah, that's something that could be done.
Okay.
Person needs to go to, they want to go to the movies, they just want to go shopping or just go out.
Mhm.
They'll come in for a few hours and tend to your loved one while you're away.
And they also have that with nursing homes.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember I worked at this particular nursing home, and they would say that this room is for the respite patients. So
Mm,
family members, let's say they were going out of town or something, or just needed some time, they
mm.
could bring them there.
Okay.
Right.
And then the nursing home would take care of them. Yeah.
Okay.
right. And so, and that's a good thing. That's wonderful if people can afford it. Sometimes people can't
Mhm.
afford it. Because
Is
I,
there any part of insurance that covers caregiver services?
no, none, not Medicare does not cover it. I'm hoping that they add it to it at some point, but they
They're going to
don't.
need to, because this is becoming more prevalent and more of an issue amongst our, our society. People are getting older, and, especially I feel like people of our age group now are kind of caught in the middle of, still somewhat trying to help our young adult children navigate life and now having to, care for our parents or
Mhm.
older relatives. So, yeah, hopefully at some point insurance will
So
implement something that will help with that financially.
what they have available, but you have to qualify. If you're able to qualify for Medicaid, then the family members can be compensated for the time,
Okay.
but it's only based on qualification. And we're in the middle of that now. Uh,
Okay.
and I'm not really sure. If, I think my mother's over by about $60. And so
Goodness.
I'm, I'm, I'm not expecting good news, but I'm hopeful.
Goodness.
But, you know,
So just to
because
clarify, if you were to qualify, which I'm sure they make the criteria quite stringent, but if you were to qualify, you as the caregiver would receive pay.
sure. Well, what I
Okay.
would do is I would have probably my daughter, I would have her receive the pay.
Okay.
I'm the power of attorney, so I'm not able to. Um,
Oh,
that's
okay.
how it works. It has to be, it could be other family members or somebody that you know that you want to
Okay.
do, but can't be the power of attorney.
Oh, that's valuable information. Okay.
And
Hmm.
I do know that with Medicaid, I've had people who were on Medicaid before, and they were given like 6 hours a day, and I think it was 3 days a week.
Hmm.
And that was with Medicaid. But
Okay.
Okay.
the issue is a lot of people don't qualify
Okay.
for that.
So because we did not qualify, so what you're discussing is what they call the waiver program. There's an independent broker through the state where people live that will come and evaluate to see if you're eligible. So initially, when my mom moved in, they evaluated her, but they only evaluated her based on income. It wasn't based on her medical condition. So at that point, it was, she was over. She was still, I think it was about the same, about $60. And that was
Mm,
like 3 years ago.
okay.
So, and they have increased the eligibility requirement or the amount of money that they can have. However, Medicaid has also increased with as a cost of living increase.
Okay.
So
Mm,
keeping with that, she's still over.
she's
Oh,
still
So
over.
initially, she wasn't eligible for the Medicaid. So the waiver program, she was not eligible for that. So they put her on what they call an options program, which is another program just in case you're out of that income limit, but it's very limited. So basically, my mother qualified for 6 hours per week of care.
Mm,
And so with
wow.
that, she pays a copay, and then the state, I guess, picks up the rest. But it's
Mhm,
just 6 hours a week. So I have someone that comes every Monday.
okay.
So that's what
mhm.
you know.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah.
So that it almost sounds like your situation is blessed compared to a lot of other people in
Mm-hmm.
terms of you having your husband. I know he helps some with the breakfast and that sort of thing you
Right.
had mentioned before, and your kids helping out.
Mm-hmm.
Most people just don't have
Have that.
that,
They
Yeah.
really don't. And I don't know how I wouldn't be able to do this if I did not have their help.
Yeah.
the
You know.
support system with the
Mhm.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think
Mhm.
that suggestion that you made is a really good one where, sometimes people kind of just stay on the surface and they don't, take that deeper dive. It doesn't have to be just about going through agencies or official, companies. Go to your church if you're a member or just within your community. Don't be afraid
Mhm.
to feel maybe even a little bit exposed in your situation to build that community, because you'd be surprised who may actually be willing to come to your assistance and who may be willing to give that time and
Right.
maybe even consider it a
Mhm.
blessing unto themselves to be a blessing to you. Sometimes, as the old
That's
saying
right.
goes, closed mouth don't get fed. So
That's
sometimes we kind of in
Mhm.
our minds isolate ourselves for lack of even the intuition to be able to seek out help in our community, whatever that looks like. So I think that was a really good suggestion. of just, you know, just seeing who's out there and willing to be a blessing to you.
It's
Mhm.
really key. I think that's the key. Even if you do have support, still letting people in your circle know what's going on so that, you know, if they're able to, they can step in or they can say to
Yeah,
so and so, hey, you know,
yeah,
Natalie, she's taking care of her parents. Maybe she
yeah.
could use an hour or two. Would you
Absolutely,
be willing to do that?
absolutely.
You
Because one thing
know,
about us in the Black community, I believe we are still so stuck on what happens in this house stays in this house, and we don't want people in our business. And for the
it's
most
true.
part, that's a good thing. But that's not always beneficial and advantageous. Sometimes we do need to, you know, be vulnerable enough to say, "Hey, I'm going through a thing right now with my family, you know, and I could really use some help." And you would be maybe surprised about the response that you may get from people who are well intentioned and want to be a blessing.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that I think the point about really speaking up and
Yeah,
talking about it.
yeah.
And I agree with you, T. In our communities, we've got to do a better job of being a community.
Yes,
Because you
absolutely.
look at other cultures and they are a community. You got
Yeah,
grandma staying there, and
yes,
you got these sisters staying here,
yeah.
and they all work together. And for some reason, I don't know why we haven't gotten that. Like, that's why I so appreciate what you're teaching your kids. You know, grandma took care of you,
Yeah,
especially your son when he was
yeah,
younger. So
Right,
this is your way of giving back.
yeah,
And we've got to learn to be a community.
yeah,
right.
yeah,
We've got to be a
yeah,
community. We're
yeah,
not an island. And
yeah,
when you try to be an island, you get burned out more.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
You get burned out more. And it would be great if somebody developed something where they develop a community and your services is to go and rotate to help other families who are in need. Do you
I
get
agree.
what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
hey, this is our community. And
Yeah,
what we do is we go and we help other people who are in need of assistance with caregiving. And then this person gives, and this person, like, you can get a lot of needs met that way.
right,
Yeah,
right,
you know, and to your point, when my kids were a little bit younger, I did have a few friends who had children as well, and we would sometimes I would say, have your kids come over, and you guys are going
right,
out, and same, you know, vice
right.
versa. So we
Yeah,
did do that some, and it was
yeah,
helpful.
yeah,
And
Yeah,
especially if you couldn't
absolutely.
find another babysitter, well, you know, what you guys doing? Bring the kids
Yeah,
over.
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
So
We got to
yeah,
get
yeah.
to
We
that.
did that too when the
Yeah,
kids
and
were
that can be a
younger.
whole nother discussion about why we still have difficulty unifying as a community. I think we all have our, you know, understanding of the underlying factors that have affected that. But now it's time for us to just take accountability. We got to get it
Yeah,
together as a
right.
community. You
We
know,
do.
because
yeah,
these are situations that people feel so alone and isolated in. But the gag is that so many people are going through this very similar type of journey and experience.
yeah.
You're
Right.
The
not
baby
alone.
boomers
Hmm.
are getting older.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a lot of baby boomers.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so something there has to be something out there because I don't know that this generation is prepared to take care of baby boomers.
Mm.
And I don't remember the exact age that they start, but you start being a baby boomer. I'm a baby boomer. Um,
Yeah. My
but T,
husband
I
is.
think are you Jen? What are you, T?
I'm Gen Z. Ooh, Gen
Gen
X.
X. Gen X. Okay.
I was just thinking
Yeah.
about Gen Z. I'm Gen X.
Yeah,
You're
I think
Gen
I'm
X.
Gen Z.
I'm 45.
Okay, yeah. See, I was at right at the next level where baby boomers ends at 64, I think.
I think so. I think you're
With
correct. I think
Yeah,
1964?
Gen X is 64 to 1980. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm
Okay.
a
And after that's millennial. Yeah.
yeah, just a
Okay.
The
baby
war of
boomer.
the generations.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's a good point about this generation.
Mm,
Are they really prepared?
yeah,
And you know, as I look at them, and obviously my children are in this generation, and you know they're still in college, but when they come out, it's like, are they ready? Are they in that mindset of, okay, so we need to learn how to give back? And so that's what we are trying to teach them.
that's
It's like,
good.
this is what we do. You know,
That's good.
we have this big house here.
Yeah.
You know, why should I let my mother go live in a nursing home where I know she'll get subpar care? You
Yeah.
Mhm.
know, it won't be one on one,
Yeah.
and I can have them come live with me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And same thing
Mhm.
with my brother. And it has helped us also financially to
Yeah.
have them
Mhm.
to come and live with us. So
It's a
and just
win-win situation.
exactly, and what you said before, looking at other cultures, that's where I got the idea from. I
Yeah,
see other cultures doing the same thing.
absolutely.
I have
Yeah.
Absolutely.
three generations living in one household,
Yeah,
Hmm.
and
absolutely.
why should we struggle separately when we can come
It's no
together
need. There's no
and be
need.
strong,
There's
you
no
know?
need. Yeah.
Because there was a time way before my mother, before she got the Alzheimer's, where she was even struggling financially.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
my parents split up, and you know how that goes.
Hmm.
And so financially, she was struggling. And we were like, okay, what are we doing?
Right.
Why should you struggle by yourself when we
Right.
could
Right.
come together?
Come
And
together.
I remember kind of the whole thing about the independence, as we were talking about it earlier. My mother had a friend who, this woman probably stayed living by herself she was in her 90s,
Mm.
still alone. And my
Wow.
mother kept looking at her and she was like, oh, yeah, I want to be like her.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's fine if you can take care of yourself
Right.
and continue to take care of your home. But it
Right.
got to a point where the community, the
Yeah.
church people, the
Yeah.
people in the community were taking care of her,
Yeah.
and so I had to explain to her one day. I said, well, it's been wonderful that you've had this loving community
Yeah.
wrap their arms around you, the church, the people who live in your neighborhood, doing this for you. And I
Yeah.
said, that is great.
Yeah.
I said, but guess what? They're not your family. And when your family is in a position where they can help you, they should. They
Right.
should
Hmm.
step
Yeah.
up and
Yeah.
take care of you,
That's how it
because
should
that's
be.
what we're supposed to do.
That's how it should be. Yeah.
Don't just leave it to somebody else.
No. If I
Right.
have, we have. If we're a family, I
Exactly.
have,
Yeah.
we have. If I'm in
Mhm.
Yeah.
need, we're in need. If you're in need, we're in need. It needs to be
Exactly.
more of that mentality.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Very
Absolutely.
good. Very
Would
good.
you happen to be able to give any resources, websites, or any direction for a person who might be in the journey, new to the journey, or just looking for a little bit of guidance? Could you speak to any of those?
So what we've used is AARP has been the big
Hmm.
because they have a wealth of information
Okay.
about giving and insurances and everything.
Okay.
Um, and then also the state website, like we do PA.gov. So whatever your state is,
Okay.
you could go to the state website, and they have
Okay.
in fact, they have all the programs that people could be eligible for. So if you
Okay.
go on, it's like a list of them,
Okay.
and you can just go and read each one and see if you fit the requirements. So those are two that I look at quite often. And I just do, in general, I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of reading and even watching videos and things just to learn about
Yeah.
what's going on
Yeah.
in the field. So yeah, I would just say stay engaged in what is happening and the changes that are coming our way
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Wow. 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 Well, this has been very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
And I
And
think again, just the overall message, please,
mhm.
caregivers, take care of yourselves. It is not
Yeah.
selfish or neglectful. It is the best thing you can do for the loved one that you're taking care of, and
Mhm.
absolutely for yourself. Take care. If it's just 1 hour of you, sitting on your patio or painting your nails or reading a magazine or taking a nap,
Mhm.
whatever feels good to you and feels like self-care to you, don't feel like you're not worthy of that. You
Mhm.
absolutely are. Please do that.
Yeah.
Please take care of
Yeah.
yourself.
And the other thing is just to get connected with a community.
Yes.
Don't be an island.
Yes.
Share what's going on in your life
Yes.
because you never know, somebody else might have an answer for you. But if
Absolutely.
you don't talk,
Right.
nobody knows.
Yes.
And connect with your friends because some of your friends may just be willing to give you time. Like,
Mhm.
wow, I didn't know you were going through that. Why
Right.
don't we go get a massage?
Yeah.
I'll sit here and watch your loved one. And
Yeah.
so, but speaking up is
Yes.
very important. And like
Absolutely.
we said earlier, in our communities, we don't always talk.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't always talk, and we've got to communicate.
Absolutely.
That's a huge thing. So, um, thank you so much, Natalie, just for
Thank you.
sharing your life and your
Thank you.
heart with us.
Thank you.
Welcome.
This,
Thank you
this is
again for
great.
Thank you.
inviting me.
Absolutely. Was there anything else you wanted to say in conclusion of our discussion, Natalie?
I think we covered. I think we covered pretty much everything. I think the thing about it is just speaking up and, like
Yeah.
you said, communicating.
Yeah.
I think the person, the caregiver, has to be the one to start the conversation
Mhm.
and keep the conversation going.
Mhm.
Because there are times when even though everybody does help, it's still me
Yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
I have to say, I really need you. You
Yes.
I need
Yes.
you to I need to rest a little bit and
Yes.
I'm struggling.
Yes.
Can you step in? And they
Yeah.
will,
Yeah.
but if I don't say anything,
Yeah.
I'm suffering silently and there's no reason to
Yes.
suffer silently.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
Yes.
don't do that because
Yes.
that's not
Yes.
good.
That's good. That's good. And one more quick thing. You mentioned earlier about the time that you had kind of in preparation of this journey where you kind of started to see the trajectory of where things were going with your mother and your brother. I would say to someone, if you anticipate even that it might be a future calling upon your life that you have to step into the role of caregiver, start doing some work now, start doing some research now, even though you may not be actively in the role yet. Even if you anticipate that that might be a calling on your life, start to take those steps now and see what information you can put into place so that shall that time actually come to fruition, it may be just a little bit less stressful in the administrative side of it, that you can just focus on what that person actually needs from you. So that might be helpful to someone to say, go ahead and start taking some steps now, even though they may not be in your home or you may not have to do the logistics
Yeah,
of it yet. Go ahead and start to look into some things.
prepared.
Natalie gave some great resources to start with. So, make that journey a little bit easier on yourself if you anticipate that might be your calling, and start to do your research now.
That's a great point. Excellent point. Planning ahead is key. It
Yeah.
really is
Mm.
because it's crazy because one day I was sitting and it just popped in my head like, oh my goodness, I'm probably the oldest niece in my family now. Like most of my family, like our cousins, we're all adults now with our own children. But it dawned on me that I was the one.
Yeah.
Like my brother's here, my mother is here. I have two other brothers that did not get married. And I'm thinking that I may be responsible for them. And I have one brother that lives a little further away in Maryland, but he's not close enough to really manage
Right.
what's happening here. But he is I do talk to him quite often because I need someone who's strong enough to be able to, and I need someone to talk it through with another family
Mhm.
member.
Yeah.
But yeah, planning ahead is absolutely key.
Yeah.
If you see
Mhm.
what's going on, I mean, and typically, especially with our families, we don't typically plan
Right.
for
Mhm.
We wait
things.
until it happens and then we're
Wait
like,
until
oh,
it
what do I
happens,
do?
and
Yeah.
then I mean, you talk about the anxiety level going up. That
Mhm.
really creates more anxiety. So and I'm a planner in general,
Right.
but it's really that's a great point.
Good. Good.
Speaking about that, I have a friend who her mom died, I guess it's been probably 13 or 14 years ago. Um, and then her dad was left, and her dad he finally retired. He was an engineer. So he had enough money coming into the house to cover it. So she finally had to put him in an assisted living.
Mm,
And
Mhm.
it's funny you would say prepare. And I told her a few years before that, I said, if you're thinking about the house going to you, I said, please do your research, talk
Yeah.
to an attorney,
Yeah.
learn all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And she really did her research
Good.
and it worked out perfectly. I mean, his income was more than enough to pay for assisted living. He had
That's a
great,
blessing because that's not cheap either.
was
That's
not
very
cheap. Yeah.
expensive. Yeah.
Yes. And then she was able to before he went into assisted living, she hired a caregiver who came in 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. Like
That's
he
a
could
blessing.
afford to do that.
That's a
And so,
blessing.
but not everybody's
Right.
able to do that. But she talked to attorneys, like estate attorneys, elder attorneys. So she got everything connected. And then come to find out, one of the things she didn't know, and she tried to help him, how about he had a lot of land
Mhm.
and
mm,
could never find
wow,
the deed. He had gone to Alabama to find, went to the courthouse, could never get the information he needed.
mm,
And this is on another topic one day. She said, I was talking to my ancestors, and she just said, I would love to know X, Y, and Z. and she named the two ancestors that she was talking to. She said, Melody, how about a couple days later, an older cousin who's in her 90s called me that I didn't even know about. And she said, I was calling because I was trying to reach your father. And she said, I'm sorry, but he passed away 6 months ago. She said, what? I was trying to see what he wanted to do with his part of the land. And she said, well, wait a minute. And she said, he tried to find it. She said, well, what name was he looking under? She said, under his father's name. She said, it's in his mother's name. This whole thing with the ancestors, I was blown away. I ended up with chill bumps. So my friend is there now. She went to visit the aunt, she and her husband. They live up north, and they've just become like the best friends.
Oh, wow.
And her aunt has been keeping all these years, just she knew how, my friend's husband, how many kids they have, all this stuff. She's been keeping this whole thing about their ancestors and the family. So now she told my friend, I'm in my 90s, I'm going to hand this over to you.
Yeah.
She said, I knew your kids' names and everything because your dad told me.
Wow.
But my friend didn't know of this older cousin. And so here she finds out she has all this land. And then she finds out on her mom's side, she sent me a video one day. She said, Melody, you won't believe this. My mom had all this land too.
Wow.
So it's she and her brother, and now they have land on both, like instant. I call her, so you're an instant millionaire.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. What a blessing.
Yeah.
What a blessing.
Yes. Yes. So we got to know our kin folks, guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what's going on. So, but
Yeah.
that story came up, but I said all that to say she was prepared. And then I thought about that whole story. But yeah, so, well, wonderful. Well, Natalie, this could be another career for you. Have you ever thought about starting a caregiving service?
I think it crossed my mind at one point or another. I'm not really sure what I'm going to be doing in the future. I have thought about that. And that's the other thing. When you are a caregiver, you get so caught up in the world you're living in that you kind of lose sight of what you could be doing. Because I do feel like I still have a lot to give. I do have a lot to give. And I haven't put a whole lot of thought on it. But I have done a lot of preparing and taking programs and going through seminars and things like that to prepare myself for something that I could do in the future. What that is right now, I'm not really sure.
You're not really sure,
Yeah.
but
Well, take time to kind of get into your quiet space within, find that space of stillness and peace, and then I'm sure God will, lead you toward the intuition of what that next looks like for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, well, thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
Absolutely.
you being
I'm
here.
sure this information and discussion can be of some help to someone. So for anyone who saw fit to give their time to listen, prayerfully, you've gotten something from this that can help you in the space of taking care of yourself and, finding resources to help build that community that can help you be a efficient caregiver to your loved one.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Thank you so much, ladies. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Natalie. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, you all take care. Peace and blessings.
All right.
Bye-bye.